Well guys, welcome back. You can see I've got a nice clean empty greenhouse, but that's not going to stay that way for long. It is time to get started on my seeding. It's been tempting not to start already, but I have to stay by the calendar. I have notes from many years of experience to tell me, what days I need to start on all my different plantings. So if I start too early, they'll be ready too early. So it's time. What we're gonna do today is get my flats ready to plant my first tomatoes. So we're gonna go ahead and put the soil mix in there and punch the holes, wet them down, and then they'll be ready to start here in a few days on putting the seed in the flats and getting them going. One thing I will remind you is everything we plant here in the greenhouse is what we use for ourselves to transplant out in the field. So we don't sell plants, we're not doing hanging baskets or anything like that. It's 100% transplants for us to go to the field. And once we start, we'll keep something in this greenhouse up until about the end of May, and we'll constantly be taking stuff out, taking them to the field, replanting another round. And I have a schedule that I keep, and I pretty much stick to that same schedule every year. It took me a long time to figure out the schedule as far as how many days it takes and how many days apart each plant needs to be. And this is a guide that I use, and I may not stick to it exactly. It may be plus or minus a few days. When the guys are working in the field or something and we get a rainy day, then if it's a day or two early than what we need for a round of planting, for example, we may go ahead and plant them because we need something to do on a rainy day, if that makes sense. So in the past, I have grown a few plants for people, but they bring me the seed, I plant them, and they buy the finished flats product from me. But this year I don't have anybody, and when we've done it in the past, it's been very minimal. So but this year it'll be, everything you see will be 100% for us. Okay, we use a Jolly Gardener Pro line. If you go down here, this is the one we use. 60% peat moss, hydrofiber, and perlite. Alright, I'm standing in front of my wood box. This brace may be in the way a little bit, but hopefully you can see it. 72 count flats. It means there's 72 cells in each tray. That's what we use for everything. At times I wish we had 36 count flats. Gives you a bigger root ball, but it takes up twice as much space in the greenhouse. You have to have twice as many flats, twice as much dirt, twice as much work getting them all prepared. The planting would be the same, but anyway, I decided years ago just to stick with these, and that's what we do. So it's pretty simple. I've got a scoop here, and I'm just gonna fill these trays up and take my board here that I've used the same board for many, many years. Smooth it off right on the top. There you go. I'm gonna put them on the floor, put them all together, and we're gonna water them real good, and then we'll punch the holes. We made this little wood box. It'll hold 2 or 3 of those bags. We usually just put 2 at a time. But I made it where I can work standing up and you don't have to bend over. So it makes this right at the height where it won't be too hard on your back. Works pretty good. Okay, it may not look like much, but that's 42 flats, which is 3,000 seeds. So this is going to be my first tomato planting in the field. Will be 3,000 tomato plants. Got them watered. Now we'll punch the holes. Okay, we've got our soil here that's been watered, and the soil is pretty wet. Take our hole puncher, and I've got different depths. You can see the depth of the holes for the tomatoes, eggplant, peppers. We use a shallow hole. Everything else, the bigger seeded stuff, squash, cucumbers, cantaloupes, watermelons, we use a deeper. I've got a different one of these with a deeper hole. So it fits just perfect. Give it one good push. Now you've got your trays with even holes, even depth. That's all it is to it. Okay, if the soil was not wet, then the holes would not form and stay that way in the dirt. If it was dry and you tried to punch the holes, then it would just go back to the way it was when you pulled the hole puncher out. So that's why the soil needs to be wet. Okay, this is the tomato seed. We get it pelleted, which means it comes in a little white coating around the seed, makes it easier to handle. Kind of a ball, like a little BB. So I always get them pelleted if I have an option. All right, what we'll do, I'm not ready to plant yet, I'm just showing you. We'll just drop one of these tomato seed in each hole, 72 per flat. And then we'll dump the dirt on them like we did when we were filling them up. Slide it off to cover them up. Put them on this heat table. Water them. And then they'll be off and running. Okay, I'm fixing to put on my sunglasses here. It's gotten so bright I can't hardly see. All right, the heating table. Let me turn it around here. That's my heat table with the white top. And then that table over there with the black top. All right, anything small seeded, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, they will go on this heat table to germinate them. They're small seeded, still cool, even though the greenhouse is heated. It helps them germinate and come on up. The bigger seeded stuff we do not put on the heat table. We don't need to. Now, a lot of people use heat mats, electric heat mats, where you'll roll them out on a table or a bench and sit your flats down on top of them. You can plug it in, set the temperature. They'll use those to germinate. I never have used the heat mats. We've made these tables and they work perfect. And I'm going to show you what I got underneath. Okay, I'm going to get under here and see if you can see what I got under here. Okay, that's just a little small 110 electric heater with a couple of settings, high and low. And I've cut out that bucket there where it sits over the top of it, but not where it's blocking the heat, just to keep any water that might drip through the top to land on it. So I've got one of these buckets on each end pointing towards the middle, and I've got one heater just like this under that small table. Okay, now remember, we haven't put the seed in here yet. We'll put 2 row flats all the way down and then come back on this smaller table, put a couple of rows, and I can get all 42 of my tomato flats on these heat tables at one time. They're wrapped in plastic all the way around, sealed up with those heaters underneath. And so when the heat's on, it makes this top layer hot. And all this is the same material that my roll-up sides are on my greenhouse. And I've had this piece on here for a long time. It's old, but it still works. This over here is the same material that I have for the floor. Works the same. I just had some extra, so we use the black on that table. So we'll leave these plants when we put them on here for about a week. Maybe more, maybe less, and they'll be up, ready to go, and then we can take them off. This right here eliminates the need for any heat mats. Those little electric heaters that are underneath usually have a couple of settings, and all you need it really is low. If you have it on high, it gets too hot because that heat is trapped in there and it can't go anywhere except up. And that's where the flats will be sitting. So I don't have to worry about plugging in a bunch of mats and rolling them out, and those things are expensive. This is a cheap and easy way to do it. It's the way I've always done it, and it works. Now, if I was in a much colder climate, maybe it wouldn't be the same. I don't know. I'm only here. I only know what works for me down south. But I mean, it's still cold. It's going to be cold, really cold for us all this week. But I've always had success with these heat tables, and I just leave those heaters on all the time, and they'll run until we get through planting our last pepper or tomato, probably pepper, and then we'll shut it off and won't need them anymore. So since we've seen you last, our last video, we were spraying the cover crops. I showed you those big old giant turnips, and it's been not quite 2 weeks since we've sprayed them. The week we sprayed them, it was warm, record high temperatures. By the end of the week, it got up to 88. This past week, it's been below normal for us, cold, which is good. We need more cold weather for the peaches. This upcoming week, colder than last week, which is good. We need the cold weather. It's going to slow down the rate as far as how fast my chemical is working on the cover crops. They're pretty yellow. I would rather them be just about bone dead before I start plowing them up, if I can wait that long. This time of the year, when you get a chance to do any field work, you got to do it. So the reason I showed you the table here before we planted is on the day that I want to start planting the tomatoes, according to my book, it's probably going to be dry enough for me to get in the field with a tractor. So that's going to be my first priority. So I'm going to have to put some of my help here to get the tomatoes planted that day, and I won't be here with the camera. I'll be on the tractor all day. So that's why we didn't get the tomato planting on this video, but we'll have plenty more planting opportunities. And on the next video, I'll show you, the trays on the heat table, and the little plants should be up. But I've got a lot to do on the tractor. We've still got a good bit more peach pruning to do too. It's been really wet the last couple of weeks since I've sprayed the cover crops, so we've missed some days in the peach orchard pruning. While we were doing that, just to keep you updated, we've got all the trucks and tractors, all but one, oil change, fluids, filters, everything, maintenance, greased, all that kind of stuff. So we've taken care of all that. My job, once the fields are dry enough, is I get everything ready. So I have to do that. So I'll work in the greenhouse when I can, but if I need to be in the field, then we'll bring the help, some of the help here to do everything in the greenhouse, or if we can, we'll wait for a rainy day. So that's kind of the update. This is 2025 season. This will be the beginning. These tomato plants in these flats will be the beginning of my 31st crop season doing this full time. I had a couple years before that where I was kind of doing it on the side. So it's just amazing to think about. I don't really feel that old, although my body feels old sometimes. But anyway, very thankful to the Lord for getting us to this point, because it's been a long road. So looking forward to a great crop season. Going to trust in Him. He will take care of us, give us all that we need with the weather and the crops and the yields and the customers and the labor, all those things we have to have. So hope y'all will watch us this upcoming year. See y'all next time.